Hey fam, I hope you're having a wonderful day. If you want to know how I achieved this flawless base, then stay tuned and remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hey fam, how are you? How's your Sunday going? So, I want to jump right into it. In today's video, I want to focus on getting a flawless base. That flawless foundation, highlight, contour. How do we perfect that? In today's video, I'm going to go through some of my staple products. Okay, so my skincare is already done. And right now, I'm just putting on primer. And the primer that I'm using today, I actually got from TJ Maxx about a week or so ago. And it is the no pore blem primer. Lord, I can't talk. The no pore blem primer. It looks like this. And it's supposed to kind of cover up those pores, give you a smooth base. I like it. It's a little bit more of a silicone feel primer. So just depends on if you like that texture or not. But it seems to work pretty well. For foundation today, I'm gonna go in with my MAC Studio Fix, and I am in the shade NW44. And I'm a matte girl. I have always been a matte girl ever since college, ever since I first got into makeup in college. I've been a matte girl. I'm still a matte girl. There'll always be some sort of MAC in my bag. So let me know if you are a matte girl or if there is a brand that you are that girl. Like you're always going to have that staple in your collection. For me, it's MAC through and through. I'm always going to have some MAC foundation. I'm always going to have a concealer. There's going to be something MAC in there. So today is my Studio Fix Fluid Plus foundation. We're going to go ahead and get that pumped onto the back of my hand. And what I typically do, I always pump foundation onto the back of my hand for the most part. I feel like I have more control over placement and where I'm putting it when I can put it on the back of my hand and then dip my brush into it. But that's just me. I know some people like to put foundation directly on their face and blend it that way. But it's whatever makes you feel comfortable. So I'm going to go in with my foundation. And I like the control that I get because I feel as though I can decide how heavy or full I want it. And so I have a tendency to start out pretty sheer. And then if I need to build up in places, then I can. And I feel as though this is probably one of my better matching foundations. I feel as though it's so hard for me to find a foundation that's like my perfect shade, you know? I watch some videos where these girls, they put on the foundation and it looks like it blends into their skin like they have found their perfect match. But I haven't found like that shade that's just like my skin but better. Okay, so I have my foundation completely blended out. And so what I'm gonna do next is go on with concealer. And I've been trying this Shay.M.Beauty concealer. So far I like it. It is a little bit like a more watery consistency. So I always kind of let it sit a little bit longer so I can get that fuller coverage that I want. But I ain't gonna lie, for $8, the girl ain't bad. So check it out if you haven't. And no, I'm not sponsored. I just like the product. So I typically like to use a concealer that has a little bit of a like orangey kind of a tint, a kind of a warmer tint to it. So it kind of acts a little bit as a color corrector for me. I have not found it very easy to do the whole color correcting and then put concealer on top of it. I feel as though with me, the color corrector always ends up moving, or somehow it blends in, and then I look, I don't know, like Garfield. I look orange uh, under the eye, and so that has never worked out for me. So I have a tendency, yes, I will get a concealer that's lighter, but I kind of go with a little bit of a orangier, or I guess warmer. I probably should stop saying orangier. That is not even a word. But I have a tendency to go with a warmer tone, so it kind of does a little bit of color correcting for me. So I can kind of try to skip that step. Sometimes I try different things with my highlighter. Sometimes I'll bring it down and around my nose. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I feel like I got a mustache. I don't like it. So it just depends on like what you like and what works for you. For the most part, just really centering this area of the face, I have a tendency to like that a little bit better. One of my other favorite concealers that I like to use when I'm really trying to perfect my base is my, ooh, I almost dropped it, y'all. Oh, it's a glass container too. My MAC Pro Longwear. And again, MAC girl. This has been my try to true. I have bought so many bottles of this over the years. I should probably own stock, but it's one of my favorite concealers. And so I have a tendency to use that too. In this shade, I am NW40. Thread Beauty, I'm trying number 808. It is medium warm brown. While that is sitting, I'm actually going to go in and clean up my brows. And for my brows, I'm very simple, y'all. Like, I don't do a whole lot of extra stuff with my brows. My brows are naturally thin, so I actually don't even really arch my eyebrows anymore. And I had them jacked up way too many times. So the last time they got jacked up was like several years ago, and I was just like, nah, I'll do a little bit of cleanup, but then after that, that's it. So I do a little bit of cleanup and that's it. But my eyebrows are very thin. Like, I need every hair to be there. I need everybody to clock in for a full shift. I need you to work your full shift. I need you to return tomorrow to do a full shift again. So I don't like going and getting them done anymore because they've made them look like Betty Boop, you know, the little lines, and I don't like that. So for me, I like a pencil for my brows. I feel like, again, I think it's having more control. I do have Anastasia dip brow, and I do love it. I do love it. But I just gravitate towards a pencil. It's just, and I think also for me, I feel as though it's quicker with the pencil than using a brow pomade. So I have a tendency to gravitate towards that. Especially if you're trying to get ready for work, you might overslept a little bit, you got like 20 minutes, you need a quick brow, you can just, and then you can go out the door. So, you like those sound effects? I know. Pretty much kind of go in, I start kind of midway and kind of work my way towards the end, and I kind of press a little deeper to get a little bit darker towards the end, and then I kind of go a little bit lighter towards the front, kind of just flicking upward. And I don't try to do too much. Like, I don't try to reinvent the wheel. I don't try to make my brow be something that it's not. And I think because of that, it kind of helps when I'm doing my brows. So again, and my brows are definitely, I know they're supposed to say that there's sisters, not twins. Mine are cousins. I don't think they ever been sisters. I think they always were cousins. Maybe in a previous life, but in this life, they cousins. Because I don't think that they have ever matched. So I don't even try. I just kind of follow their lead and do what they want to do. And it has worked out for me thus far. Well, at least I think it has. I mean, child, these things could look like trash. I don't know. Y'all let me know. The color in my little NYX micro brow is espresso. I never go in with a black because my hair isn't black. My eyebrows aren't black. So, and black is like super, super harsh. Unless you have really dark hair. So I went ahead and blended out my concealer, and I've been trying something new. I've actually been blending out my concealer with a brush instead of my wet beauty sponge, and I'm liking it. I feel like it gives me, I keep looking at myself in the mirror, I think it gives me a fuller coverage than with the beauty sponge. Because even with my concealer, I do typically let it sit for a little bit to give me that fuller coverage. I was about to say color. Give me that fuller coverage. But even with the beauty sponge, I feel as though it still takes away some of that product, and sometimes I have to kind of go back in and fix it in some areas. Like, I have a little bit of a darker area, kind of, especially right here under this eye. And so sometimes I feel like it kind of takes it off. You can still kind of see that spot, and I have to go in and kind of put it back on. But I do kind of like the brush. I do feel like it gives me a little bit fuller coverage under there. I do feel as though with the brush, I do feel like I do have to kind of, and this is the brush that I use, this is a Sephora brush, but I do feel like I have to kind of midway through, after I kind of do a first step of blending, I do feel like I gotta kind of clean it off a little bit so that it's not kind of, it doesn't get too gunky, if that makes sense. And it could just be my brush, but I do feel like I kind of got to swirl it into my little towel that I have. to kind of get some of that excess off, and then go back in. It's not a big deal, and it's not like you're wasting tons of product. You're not, because you let it sit and dry down. But I do kind of swirl it a little bit in my little towel, and then I go in, and it seems like it really kind of helps with that. For setting powder, I'm using my tried and true Peach Perfect by Too Faced. I love this powder, okay? If they ever discontinued it, which I doubt they will, but if they did, I would be so sad. I've tried numerous setting powders, and for whatever reason, I really like it. And at first, I was kind of nervous, you know, being of darker complexion, and this kind of being a not necessarily white, but a very light colored. I was a little nervous about trying it, but I've been using it for years, for a few years now, and I gravitate towards it a lot. I have several setting powders, and I don't even gravitate towards my yellow powders anymore because I always feel like it makes it a little too yellow under the eye. I have a tendency to gravitate towards this over my other setting powders. I like this powder a lot. It's just, I don't know. I can't describe it. I feel as though it makes it very smooth, very airbrushed. I probably shouldn't be touching my face, but, and it doesn't, and once I sweep it away and kind of set everything, it just looks good. I like it. It's one of my go-tos, and I have several. I even have Fenty powder. I have a lot of powders, but for whatever reason, especially when I travel and I need to know that, okay, what's that one powder I can go to? This is the one that's going to get me right every single time. Okay, so after I set my under eye, I like to set the rest of my face. And for that, I like to use, again, MAC. This is the Mineralized Skin Finish in Dark Deepest. And I use it to set my entire face. And I also use it to kind of help brush away that setting powder. So I will go in, and I typically go in with a big fluffy brush. And I just go in and set. I'm not really trying to have extra coverage on the face. I'm just trying to set what has been put down. Okay, so the next step we're gonna go in is with bronzer. One of my favorite bronzers is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Powder and Mahogany, Bronzer Powder Mahogany. I've used this thing for so long. Yeah, I'm about to show y'all something. This is how long I've had this powder. You ready? It just, one day, it just broke. It just, it's still all in one piece. It's still all together, but apparently the glue gave up the ghost. So, so if I'm not careful, it'll fall out. But I've had this powder forever. I love it. And it's one of those, again, one of my staple products that I love to use. And I like to just go in with this kind of it's a bronzer brush, but it's kind of it's not flat, but it's kind of pinched. And I have product on it, that's why it looks like that. But I kind of go on with this pinched brush, and I like it because it rests right in this area, right below that cheekbone. And I like this because it's not, I feel like it's kind of fail proof, you know, both the bronzer color and the brush. So it's not going to, it's not one of those things where you're gonna apply too much, at least on my complexion. I feel like you're not gonna apply too much to where the first time you touch the brush to your face, you're like, you know. So you can kind of work with it and build it up. Let's see, we're gonna try to come down and reduce this 5 head we got going on a little bit. I like to kind of come down a little bit towards my brow on the temple areas. And I like to place it, like if I do the little fish face and you see the indentions, I actually like to place it right above. I feel like if I place it right in that indention, sometimes it looks a little low. So right in here, I'm finishing up with my bronzer. Just gonna bring a little bit down the nose, not too heavily. I don't like the overly contoured nose. Just a little dimension, not too much. Sometimes it can look a little bit heavy. One thing that I have started doing is going in kind of like right in here with a little bit smaller brush and kind of defining this. I feel as though this kind of helps with bringing back that natural dimension and shadow that you kind of lose when you're like cleaning up your brows and doing some of your eye work. So I do kind of bring that in. I feel as though that kind of helps with defining that bridge of that nose. So I do go in with a smaller brush and do that. And again, not too heavy because I don't like that heavy contoured nose look, but just enough to give back a little dimension. And that's one thing that I really like about perfecting your base and getting your base together. I've always been fascinated with dimension and the loss of dimension when you put foundation on, and how the highlighting and contouring or bronzer, depending on what you choose, how it kind of brings the dimension back into the face. It brings that natural shading back into the face, and it gives that appearance of light hitting the face. And it's always been something I've always been fascinated with. And so I think that's why I kind of like making sure that my base is the best that it can be. And I keep looking at myself in the mirror because I want to make sure I'm saying that and it looks okay. But that's why I want to make sure that, you know, my base is the best that it can possibly be. Okay, so this is the base. Let me know how you feel about it. What do you think? Make sure to comment down below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Join the fam. It'll make my day. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Let's go be great.